Hello everybody and welcome to the Sedona International Film Festival. This is our silver anniversary. I'm Carol Kahn and we're coming to you live from the Sedona Rouge Hotel and Spa, who is one of our sponsors along with Black Magic Design and Digitech. We'd like to thank our sponsors for being part of the Sedona International Film Festival. And joining me now is a filmmaker who's visiting us here in Sedona, Warren, with April in Autumn.
Mm-hmm.
I got it right. Welcome to Sedona.
Thank you.
Is this your first time here?
I visited Sedona, but the first time to the festival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your film.
April in Autumn is a dramatic feature, and it's shot in Toronto, Canada. I'm from Canada. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, but I spent quite a bit of time working in Toronto and also elsewhere around the world. And I had been directing television for many years. And I'd been through film school many years ago, and I decided at one point a couple years ago that I have to go back to my original intention as a film school student and filmmaker, which is to make feature films. So I crowdfunded and put together a very small amount of money and wrote the script. I'm a writer, actor, and worked with non-union actors and found locations, very little lighting. I knew what I had available, and I had been inspired by a French filmmaker named Erik Satie, who was part of the French auteur new wave group from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and I love his work. It's all about relationships and family. And so I put this film together for a shoestring. And I always was holding this carrot out in front of the crew and cast. We're going to make this and go to the Cannes Film Festival, and it was like a carrot just to keep people attached to the project. But we went to the Cannes Film Festival. Awesome. We were chosen by by Telefilm Canada last year, and so we had our world premiere at Cannes in May with April in Autumn, which was a true dream come true.
Bravo,
yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah.
I know, it's manifestation. I mean, living here in Sedona, it's just typical, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it works. You put your intention out there, and
Yeah.
it really works as far as what you need to do.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So I didn't watch the whole film. I didn't get to see the whole film yet. I did watch bits and pieces of it, which seems like an interwoven story
Yeah.
about different relationships, a mother and two sisters,
yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
It's a composite of true stories of friends and a bit of patches of stories from my life that I constructed to create this interwoven series of characters. There's 8 characters in the film, but yeah, there are 3 central characters, 2 sisters and a mom, and one sister's been traveling for a number of years in Asia, India, teaching yoga along the way, and waiting on tables, and just doing things to get by as you travel. And she's real fancy free. The other sister's been at home looking after her mother, who has some mental health problems, early dementia, decline. And she's been at home, and when the traveling sister returns, she has trouble settling down, and she literally unearths a box of old letters and little hand-signed paintings in the back garden. And her imagination starts getting the better of her, and she assumes they could be her mother's, that she's buried from a past lover. The father passed away years ago. And it leads her down all these garden paths, metaphorically, as she's trying to figure out her own life once she's settled back in Toronto. Because she has a marriage proposal that she's received by email from a guy she met on her travels, and she doesn't know what to do with her life, and she's trying to get things back. But it's really about family and finding and keeping our identity within family, and how family is the nucleus of all of our lives. No matter how far out we may be away from family, there's always a family of sorts that we find in life.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were talking about that there were bits and pieces of your own life in this particular film. What parts of your life would we get to see?
Well, I'm in the film. I'm an actor, and I don't have time to act much anymore, sadly, because I've been directing and producing and writing a lot for film and TV. So I write myself always a part in my films. And I wrote a character about, my character is a father who's recently separated from his wife, and they have a young daughter, 8 years old. And I don't have a child of my own, but I've been in a couple of relationships where I've had stepchildren for a number of years. And when those relationships ended, the trauma was from the separation from the child, more so than the separation from the partner, because it's really quite immediate. And so I took that aspect of loss and wrote it into this character of this man who literally is living his first days away from home, a new separation from his family. And how do you emotionally acclimatize yourself to suddenly just spending weekends with a child, your child, when you were with that child from birth, every day? And so I access that emotional terrain, that past history, to find a depth and hopefully authenticity in that character. And I did the same thing with some of the other characters. Really, as writers, Hemingway says one of his few quotes he gives to writers in his books is, to really write truth, you have to write about people you know, and the real only person you know is yourself. And so that's the place I go to. There's people I write about, but you have to change the names, and you make sure that there's enough change that people don't come back to you
and get mad at you.
And get mad at you because they're actually
telling their story.
Yeah.
How difficult is it being an actor and then jumping, because when you're an actor, you have to be absorbed into the actual role of what you're playing. And then you have to jump back out again to, be a director. So how difficult is that transition between the two?
I love it. Acting for me is my first love. And I grew up in the theater, and I was a child actor and a child star. When I was a teenager, I started my own television series in Canada, and so I missed. And it wasn't about being, it wasn't anything about celebrity. I love the craft of acting, and it's something that you can. It's close to painting, and it's close to composing music. It's pure. Directing requires so much else. You're a traffic cop so many times. People just coming to you, asking questions. Yes, no, do this, do that, and you've got 100 different decisions to make every 15 minutes as a director. Whereas an actor, you just focus on that one thing that you've shown up for that day to do, which is to mine the authenticity of the work. You have to put blinkers on. So it is schizophrenic because yes, you're behind the camera and you're setting up the shot with the cameraman and you're composing, and then suddenly you get in front of the camera, and we were working so fast, and I shoot documentary style with my cinematographer, so we don't spend a lot of time looking at monitors and stuff or setting up a lot of lights. I like moving fast, so literally I would jump in front of the camera, do the scene, and ask the sound guy, how was that? And the camera guy,
right.
and then go back and maybe do 3 or 4 more takes. But you feel when it's actually you feel from the people right there that you're working with, the what resonated, what touched them. If as an audience, the camera person, or the assistant director, or the sound person is suddenly quiet, present. You've done something. You've touched people. If you've touched them, you're going to touch an audience.
Yeah. So this particular film, what did you take away from it?
that film has, and since Cannes, I've been traveling all over the world with it. I've been, like, it's such a small little film. And then the Telefilm Canada, who is the Canadian equivalent of the National Endowment of the Arts, perhaps, in the States, they came in at post-production and put a lot of money into it. Once I edited the film, I did the assembly, and then I brought in a couple editors to help me finish it. But I submitted an assembly to Telefilm, and they thankfully gave me the funding to finish it, because I didn't know how I was going to. And then with the support of Telefilm, I've been traveling all over the world since Cannes, and Telefilm selected it to go to Cannes. But I've been in Germany. I just got back from Berlin, where I was pitching my next my next film. April and Autumn has allowed me to speak to audiences, to get up in Q&As afterwards, to feel their response, to respond back to them. It's the closest thing I know to being back on stage, in that I get to engage one-on-one or with a whole audience. That's powerful with the film. The trajectory for the film is I'm going into production in a couple months on my next one with full funding, and I'm putting together an international co-production for my third one. So the film has opened up many opportunities and doors, but it's given me the realization that film has the power still to affect and touch people in a way that I'm not sure television does, because it's so engrossing when it's done really well, I think. I'm not saying my film's necessarily done well, but I still think when you sit in a theater rather than in front of a small screen and are wrapped inside of the sound and the visuals of a big film like Roma, your life shifts a little bit in a powerful way,
Well, Warren, where can people learn more about your film?
Well, at the SedonaFilmFestival.com website. They're there. We're there, and we're showing Thursday night and Sunday afternoon. Thursday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 1:10, I believe. And we're at the Harkins Theater. We're also at aprilandautumn.ca, which is the Canadian equivalent of com.
Okay.
And we also have an April and Autumn Facebook site and Instagram. We've been quite active with our social media to promote the film.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
And you know that you need to use our hashtag,
Yes.
Sedona Film Fest 25, to promote everything that's happening here in Sedona and with your film. So thank you so much for being with us today and to talk about your film. I'm anxious to actually see the whole entire version of it, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we will be back with more from the Sedona International Film Festival right after this.